persuasive? What's persuasive? What's persuasive? From 9 to 5, I know it's faking you, bitch. Yeah, bitch. Dreams that live. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I am live. I think I'm live. I'm checking whether I'm live. Let me know in the comments if I'm live here. This is forgive me, this is low budget operation. This is my first day on the job, and so I'm just double checking currently if I'm live. I am live. Let's get it, Bufo. What up? Oh, I'm definitely giving you a wrench. Oh my goodness, how do I give you a wrench? I can put user in timeout, pin the message, go to channel, hide user, add as moderator, adding as moderator, managing moderator, standard moderator can review, remove chat messages, and hide or put out users in timeout. Bufo, this is a responsibility with a lot of power. So I give it to you with with gratitude, and I hope you wield it with grace. So you are now a standard moderator. What up, everyone? Bufo, RH ecosystem in bull mode, bro. Yes, sir. Yes, we're definitely seeing a bit of that. Dave 565, wait, 5656, forgive me, is in the house. I even saw RH Max with the coffee. Was that tea? Either way, I'm all for it. Folks, I am excited to finally start streaming. The long wait, the long night is officially over. We have been waiting for years and years and years for this Pulse Chain ecosystem to finally kick off, and it indeed has. We're seeing a lot of pumpage all the way around. My God, incentive token. Incentive token is pumping to the moon. Guys, you don't understand. During the bear market, I was the only goddamn streamer talking about incentive token. I was like, what are the tokenomics? No one cared about incentive token except me. I even remember I was complaining about it all the time, all over Twitter. Any chance I got, I would complain about us not knowing about the incentive token. And Richard Hart even commented on it once, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care." Like he's like, "Yeah, the tokenomics, whatever." And now all of a sudden, like once this stuff launches, everyone cares about incentive token, and for a very good reason. The rewards are insane. So, folks, look, in this live stream, I'm going to run through the charts. Wow, we are pumping. We are pumping with Pulse Chain. We are pumping with PulseX. Incentive token, my God, is mooning like crazy. So I'm going over that, some sacrifice stuff, some resources, some price things, some price predictions, some Richard Hart tweets, all this good stuff. So, folks, by the way, I want to mention this is a brand new channel. The Brandon B Show is a brand new channel. So if you could kindly like, subscribe, and share the live stream, it helps out tremendously, especially with a channel like this. With relatively a modest amount of viewership, every single like, every single sub, every single share does help out tremendously. So, folks, I am very, very, very excited. We'll start shortly here. I'm just going to send out some tweets, let the people know we're live. In the meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, now might be a good time to put them in the comments before I kind of delve into some of the more kind of pre-planned stuff we had going on. And look, one of the reasons that I wanted to stream today is obviously not just because it's been a while and there's some news, but I think, and it's not just me saying what I'm about to say, but also some very intelligent people, such as Buck from Fiat and Famous, has been saying something similar to what I'm about to say, which is we're seeing Richard Hart start to get a bunch more active. So we're seeing the bridge start to clear up. We're seeing improvements to the pulse chain scan. Now, I think the next big thing is seeing some more improvements to PulseX single-side staking pools. And we're seeing all this paired with Richard Hart starting to get a lot more active on Twitter, which I think is a very, very bullish sign of things to come. There's additionally some rumors, nothing's kind of confirmed quite just yet, but from what I'm hearing in some back channels, some birds whispering in my ear, is that there's some rumors that Richard Hart has some live streams kind of lined up or scheduled. which even if they're not lined up or scheduled, it would seem pretty logical that eventually Richard's probably going to hop on some of these bigger channels and start talking about this stuff. So, folks, we got plenty to talk about. What is up, RH Max? How can I contribute to the movement? Thank you, sir. So this is an extremely important point. So, as some of you may not know, perhaps our less educated cisgendered audience, I have recently joined NAFA, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. Because, as you may or may not know, I also have another channel called A Million to the Moon, and unfortunately, I've been dealing with quite a lot of toxic masculinity. Messin has told me numerous times, coming up to me and saying just the most hateful things. Like, for example, the other day, he said, "Hey, Brandon, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Sure." Didn't ask for my pronouns, so already, I'm on kind of the defensive. And he said, "Hey, man, I'm kind of reviewing our finances. I see that you've been spending a lot of money on going to Lizzo concerts. I'm kind of concerned about how this is affecting the budget and kind of the company bottom line sort of thing." And even though he was kind of throwing out a bunch of numbers, I wasn't really kind of understanding, but I was highly, highly offended. And so, in response to this, I decided to spend even more company funds to fly to the Ukraine. Because, as you may or may not know, the Ukraine is currently dealing with a horrible, horrible crisis of toxic masculinity and fat phobia. And I can confirm that this is true. When I went over there, everyone was telling me to get down, move, get up, all this extremely kind of fat phobic language. And this is kind of a big problem over there right now. And so if you want to join the movement, if you want to fight the good fight, I invite you to check out nafa.org. I will leave a link right now in the comments. Become a member, put it in your Twitter bio. Just spread the good word, because they're fighting the good fight in a world where there's so many problems, so many real world issues. To be a part of a movement, actually making a tangible difference. There's little else more important. I mean, we could talk about this crypto stuff, but at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than advancing fat activism. So I thank you for your bravery in that comment. RH Max is saying, "I am a survivor." I am indeed a survivor. Thank you very much for your brave comments, Slay Queen. Okay, let me send out these goddamn tweets. All these cisgenders in the comments are trying to distract me from spreading the message. Okay. All right. All right, that's that. Okay, so we can get to the good stuff. We must defeat evil at all costs. Exactly. Wherever it may find itself. In fact, I have I don't want to go into all this spiel, but very proud of our most recent sponsor, Lockheed Martin. It's a bit blurry, so I don't know if people are able to tell that, read that, but very proud sponsor of Lockheed Martin, bringing freedom all over the world, if you whether you like it or not. Okay, so folks, I want to begin by the way, RH Max, if you want to hop on, man, send me a DM me on Twitter. No pressure, just if you want to hop on, just let me know. Send me a DM on Twitter. I'll send you a link if you want to. If not, whatever, man, all good. Just giving you that option. It's been a sec since I've had the opportunity to talk to you. I know a lot of people were in Bitcoin Miami recently, which is funny to see. In fact, I saw a couple Hexicans meet up with Jack Levin. So that was kind of funny to see. It's good to see people getting along, even with people they disagree with, just kind of in general. But with that all being said, allow me to start sharing some of what I had planned, which now disappeared due to all these goddamn cisgenders in my comment section. All right, now it's right here. Hold on, let me share my screen. Present. Let's see here. All right, so this is kind of what I'm getting at here with some of these tweets we've been seeing. I don't think it's meaningless. The fact that we're seeing Richard Hart and some of the devs as well starting to get much more active on Twitter. I mean, I know many of us can speak to this, maybe even our age can speak to this, but we went quite a while without many, if at all, updates from Richard Dart during the bear, during development. And now to see Richard Dart extremely active, multiple tweets a day, I think means something. And we can also see this reflected in the kind of analytics here. This is kind of Google Analytics. We can see that the popularity of the search, the interest for Pulse Chain is currently spiking quite a bit here. We're seeing Brett Tap saying, if winning is being tired, I've archived winning status. First real break in 2 weeks. Good for you. So much to catch up on. I just found out my kids' last day of school is this week. That's pretty funny. Good to see. Oh, there's some really great resources I'm going to share with you guys as well. Anything? How's everyone feeling today? I'm feeling pretty good. And the reason I'm feeling pretty good, we'll come back to some of the stuff later, but look at this stuff, folks. I was going to say new all-time high, but not quite just yet. We are pumping quite a bit, folks. Look, this is Pulse Chain is up well over a 2x from the day one sack rate. And I will mention, damn, 180% up from the day one sack rate. And I do want to talk about kind of what I'm up to in a moment here, but let's just, before I do that, go through some of the stuff. Looking at PulseX here, PulseX is currently up a little bit. And so thankfully, when I was bridging over my dry powder, I managed to scoop up some PulseX at a 23% correction before the run up here. So folks, if you want to join my VIP Discord group, well, that's not technically what it's called. If you want to join my Discord group, there's a link through my Patreon down in the description below. Anyways, I was talking about buying the dip here, and we are currently up, just 69 some odd percent. The point is, folks, my situation was I went into the Pulse Chain sacrifice phase, not very heavy. I went in very heavy into PulseX. And so I had accumulated dry powder for Pulse Chain. But the issue was, Pulse Chain was already at well over a 2x from the day one sack rate. But, PulseX was not. PulseX was lagging. In fact, PulseX was down from the day one sack rate for quite a while. So even though I had allocated dry powder specifically for Pulse Chain, given that PulseX was at, a comparatively a much better valuation, I decided to put all my dry powder into PulseX at this dip. Guys, I had planned to DCA for the next month, for the next quarter. But when I saw this opportunity, I told myself, at the time there was like 95 or so million stuck in the bridge. The majority had not gone through yet. I forget, a good amount had not gone through yet. And so knowing all this, I asked myself, am I getting another chance? What's the likelihood of me getting another chance to accumulate PulseX at below a day one sack rate, especially with all this, money stuck in the bridge? I said it probably wasn't too likely. And given that Pulse Chain is already at well over a 2x, I decided to deploy all my dry powder that I had allocated for Pulse Chain into PulseX just because it was at a better valuation, right, guys? And so, not financial advice. I don't give financial advice, but in terms of what I'm currently doing, let's say I had the option of either Pulse Chain or PulseX. I mean, we're moving pretty goddamn similarly, but, Pulse Chain is still at a, almost approaching almost a 3x over the day one sack rate, while, oh shit, I exited out, but while PulseX is only, 13% above the day one rate. So if we can find the chart again, my point is, I think PulseX is at a superior valuation. And if I had more dry powder that I hadn't deployed, I would probably still consider PulseX because of the superior valuation. All right, let's see if I can look it up here. PulseX die. Let's see here. Right, and so it's not financial advice. And so, for one DCAing, you can never go wrong with buying both, right? Because even though arguably the valuation for PulseX is better, what we can see, especially through the ratio of Pulse Chain and PulseX, is that the market prefers Pulse Chain, and therefore there's some argument that Pulse Chain will outperform PulseX by orders of magnitude. And so even though Pulse Chain is at, nearly a 3x over day one sack rate, if it outperforms, it's an open question as to whether or not, which one in the end would have been a better buy. So in order to mitigate the risk of that uncertainty, you're probably not going to go wrong, accumulating both. Like if you have two great options and there's some pros and there's some cons on either side, the best thing you can, and ultimately it's uncertain whether or not, one one's better than the other. I mean, you could weigh pros and cons until, cows come home, but ultimately there's a degree of uncertainty that can never be solved. You can never go wrong with just both, right? Because if you do both, you mitigate the risk of uncertainty on both sides. So I'm really not trying to give financial advice or encourage people to, only accumulate one over the other, but I'm just, kind of sharing some thoughts here. Also, incentive token is pumping to the moon. Now, before I continue here, I want to see what chat's saying. I see there's a couple comments over here. RH Max is saying, I wish I could, but he's flying to the Ukraine, hopefully to spread fat activism. I completely understand if you're flying to the Ukraine to spread okay, yeah, spread fat activism, man. You spread that message. Hope you gain weight. When single side, Philip M is saying, when single sided staking opens, it's going to pop off even more. So this is another thing as well, guys. PulseX is very similar to PancakeSwap. Now I think I had PancakeSwap pulled up, but I don't have a pull up at the moment. So very soon we're going to have. Yes, we don't have any right now that I can refer to, but maybe if I pull up PancakeSwap, I can show you guys what I mean. So PulseX will soon, it could be months, single-sided staking pools. All right. So when, Joe Schmo wants to launch his coin on Pulse Chain, what are his options? He could give you a sacrifice phase, but maybe Joe Schmo is not too popular. Maybe he's worried that his sacrifice won't gain that much notoriety. Or maybe Joe Schmo wants to do a sacrifice and give away some tokens in order to try and kind of increase awareness of his project. For example, I know Buck Fiat has speculated. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but for something like Fox, for example, which is I don't want to say a throwaway token, but it's definitely kind of not the jewel of the PH ecosystem. There's been some speculation that might be put in a single-sided staking pool one day. Point is, you'll be able to stake PulseX and earn a yield in some of these tokens launching on PulseX. So let me show you what I mean. So now we're looking at PancakeSwap, which is extremely similar. And as we can see with the Cake token, you can stake the Cake token and earn, 14% in this coin, 11% in this coin. But guess what, folks? In the bull market, when things are very hot and there's a lot of incentive to gain popularity, these APRs, APYs can be even higher. I mean, look at this APY, for example, 21%. I know for a fact that in the bull market, I think to stake Cake at one point, the APR, the yield was over 100%. I think it was like 110, 120, near the kind of beginning, and it definitely dropped off over time. But the point is 50%, 60%, 80%, 30% yields, yearly APRs on these staking pools was commonplace. And we don't necessarily, it's not necessarily guaranteed that we might get that. We might get something more similar to this, something APYs, APRs closer to 10%. But even so, that's fantastic, because, for me, my plan, one reason why I don't feel bad, going heavier into PulseX and deploying my dry powder into PulseX is because I know that a month, 2 months, 3 months from now, we're going to have a very similar situation to this, where you could stake your PulseX, earn an APY and whatever token. I plan on selling that yield and accumulating more Pulse Chain. So being able to accumulate, a more disproportionate amount of PulseX right now, or get more bang for your buck, presumably at a better valuation, given that PulseX is much closer to day one sack rate than Pulse Chain, I think there's a chance that I could make up for that lack of accumulating Pulse Chain now in the future by getting a disproportionately larger size bag of PulseX, staking it, and using that APR to accumulate Pulse Chain. So I'm incredibly excited for that, guys. That's going to be huge when that happens. Because, guys, I frankly think that there's an argument, right? Like there's a lot of nuances here. Hex has some amazing tokenomics. The T-share system is revolutionary. Hex kind of set the standard for what tokenomics ought to be, and what we're seeing with a lot of new DeFi projects that they're all trying to copy Hex's tokenomics. Hex's tokenomics were pretty revolutionary and underappreciated at the time. It's so funny how everyone was calling Hex's tokenomics a scam when it first came out, just because it was so innovative. But nowadays, every single DeFi project is trying to copy Hex, buy and burn, lockup period, some T-share system. And hell, I can't blame them. I'm not even talking shit. I mean, I know Power City has something attempting to mimic the T-share system with the way they distribute yield. The yield you get in Power City will become harder and harder to get over time. So staking the Watt token is similar, comparable. It's not exactly the same. There's a lot of nuances here, but it's comparable to staking Hex. But my point in bringing all this up is I think PulseX has some extremely interesting tokenomics, I think rivaling that of Hex. And even though I haven't fully thought this through, my intuitions, and I might change my mind on this, my intuitions do lead me to believe that PulseX's tokenomics might be the best of the entire ecosystem, simply because the buy and the burn. So there's essentially a constant invisible hand of the market just slightly tipping the scales in favor of the buy, constantly. And it's omnipresent. It's not a heavy hand, it's a light hand, but it's constantly there, just forever slightly biasing the buy side of things. So it's going to be interesting to see as volume continues to ramp up over time. I mean, the volume is crazy. We're going to check out some volume numbers right now or later in the stream, but we're in a bear market, folks. We just launched, and we're seeing volume comparable to some of the top layer one smart contract blockchains out there. We'll take a look at that, as I mentioned, later on. So you have that buy and burn feature. Plus, eventually, once we get these staking pools, it's an amazing excuse to never sell your PulseX. So what we have essentially with PulseX is constant slight favor to the buy side of things, and also a really good reason never to sell. Because folks, this is a bear market. In the bear market, you're earning roughly 10% APR with the cake token, right? I don't think it's impossible to assume that something similar might happen with PulseX. So in the bull market, the APRs might be 50, 60, 80%. In a bear market, the APRs might be 10%. So you essentially have an extremely good reason to never sell, because you can constantly, if you accumulate a lot or whatever, it's all relative, but if you accumulate a decent amount of PulseX, right now on dips, you dollar cost average the first 2 years, and let's say you're able to accumulate a fairly decent sized, position, it's not impossible. There are going to be some people, it might not be the majority, but there are going to be a lot of people in a position where simply the APR, just the staking rewards, will be enough to supplement their income, or to live off, or to provide financial freedom. And so you have that buy and burn, constant buy pressure, plus a really good reason to never sell. There's an argument that PulseX has some of the most interesting tokenomics, because again, to take profits with Hex, to take profits with Pulse Chain, you have to sell the Pulse Chain token. You have to sell the Hex token. Now, of course, we have things like liquid loans, where you can take a loan out against it. We have things with fiat, where you can deposit your Pulse and earn a yield. You can become a validator. One day we might have Rocket Pool. Yada. There's there's a lot of ways in which you can extract value out of your Hex and Pulse Chain without necessarily having to sell them. Granted, sure, but currently PulseX is the easiest thing to extract value out of without having to actually sell the token. And so this is a very nuanced nuanced, considered opinion. And unfortunately, retail, the masses don't have these, well thought out positions. So it's ultimately a question, an open question as to what extent these tokenomics will influence holder behavior. But just on the tokenomics point alone, just to wrap up the tokenomics point, I think PulseX definitely has some of the most interesting tokenomics for sure. All right, let's see what chat's saying here. Look at me just rambling on. Forgive me, folks, as a cisgendered male, I sometimes, mansplain too much. So if you find me mansplaining, just let me know in the comments that I'm being a racist and I should stop, and I'll go on from there. How much PLS or PLSX do I need? I got 50K. 50K, what? 50,000 pesos, 50,000 PulseX, 50,000 Pulse Chain. Here's what I can't say. I'll help you out, amigo. I'm going to actually, unlike other streamers who would just take your question, sarcastically answer it, I would never do something like that. I would never, ever once be sarcastic. If there's one thing my viewership knows, is that I'm never sarcastic and I'm never tongue-in-cheek. And that's something I'm extremely proud of. It's something I stand by. And so I will now actually legitimately answer your question. So look, and right here, folks, we actually got a little bit of a tease, a little bit of a sneak peek inside my my Discord group. You get access through my Patreon down in the description below. We do many things. I share my portfolio, what I'm buying, take profit strategies. There's the chat. I share helpful resources. Eventually, once we got a couple members, a couple more members, I'll be doing kind of some calls with y'all, all that good stuff. But basically, one of the things I posted in here was kind of the rankings. This is free, by the way. I took this from Somi. Just ask Somi, your friend Somi, on Twitter. But this is an example of different cool resources I have in the resource section. Anyways, what we can see here is the ranking from shrimp to crab, just basically how you compare to other holders here. And in my opinion, I kind of agree with Somi, where I would personally try to be, a turtle at the very least. I think turtles definitely by, this cycle will do quite well. But I think next cycle, 2029, some turtles have maybe a better chance of being millionaires. I think it's probably, the larger size turtles approaching kind of squids that, might, be approaching some of those numbers that we hear tossed around all the time. I don't want to, but look, guys, at the end of the day, does it really matter? In my opinion, like, if you have any disposable income that doesn't have to go towards, paying rent, paying bills, where's, like, even if you're a shrimp, even if you're a crab, what else is a better place? Where else can you place your money? Bonds, you earn 3% after taxes and inflation. It's all gone. Stock market, you earn on average, 8, 10, 12% a year on a good year. After taxes and inflation, you're left with half that, if even, probably less. You have Bitcoin, Ethereum. With Bitcoin, you'll get a 3x after waiting 5 years. Oh, cool! I did better than the S&P 500 by a little bit. Cool, right? And then if you want higher returns, 99% of crypto is dog shit. So with Pulse Chain, what we have here is something with longevity, but also high upside potential, because it's a faster, cheaper version of Ethereum, but we're also early. And so I don't want to poo-poo any amount of money in this ecosystem, because where better else is your money placed? In a high interest yield savings account where you earn 1% between taxes and inflation? It's nothing. You're literally still losing. So in my opinion, any amount is a good amount. But if you want to know where you compare to others, there's this chart. You're welcome, friendo. Okay, so that's that question. I want to be richer than everyone. Well, if you want to be richer than everyone here, you might want to accumulate a bit more than that. Folks, friendly reminder from Bufo on the B, our first moderator on this channel. Definitely don't piss off Bufo. He's a moderator. He has incredible power, and he has now the power to wield it. So you need to listen to Bufo when he says like and eyeballs. You need to like the stream. You need to share the stream. You need to subscribe. You need to do all that stuff because we haven't even delved into the good stuff here, folks. I want to be a millionaire, folks. I as well. And another thing with me and saying folks, I made a conscious decision to attempt to replace saying all the time with folks. So I just did it. But that's why I try and do it. I try to replace that moment, in which you're transitioning to the next sentence with folks. Because when I say that, it gives me that half a second to think about my next sentence. So forgive me. I know I say it a lot. I know it's probably annoying, but I think it's a slightly better option than saying So I hope you can put up with me. You were disingenuous by streaming without your feather boa. My feather boa. Okay. Tokenomics sounds funny. Indeed, it does. Man, that's a great point. Even with a low 10% APY, a single-sided staking, the PulseX goes up, and then you have 500K worth of PulseX. That's 50K income a year. Exactly. I was about to say, folks. Exactly. No, this is an extremely good point. And let's say, let's say you accumulate $1 million. Yeah, no, that's very unrealistic. Because what I'm trying to get at here is that, typically in a bear market, things probably fall down around 95%, right? That's definitely possible. 85, 90, 95% is what you're going to get in a bear market. But you only hover at that all-time low for about a month. So even if you accumulate, say, 500K worth at the top, and then it drops 90, 95% and goes down to, 50K, 40K, during the bottom of a bear, even at that point, you're earning, 1,400, 1,500. But you only hover at those regions for about a month, and then you continue to recover. So something to think about as well, that like even in the bear, you're earning a couple $1,000s a year potentially that you could use to accumulate throughout the bear, right? So INC is ripping you cisgendered racist. Thank you. Mike. I was about to assume your gender. I'm so sorry. I don't want to assume your gender. Please forgive me. I will whip myself afterwards for this transgression. But indeed, you're correct, my ambiguous person. We are pumping quite a bit. It's funny to see a little bit of a correction here. But I want to hover on a point here. So for those interested in accumulating, right? The question is, what do I do? Because look, we're pumping, right? Everything's up. We're seeing a bit of a correction. Someone's taking some profits at this point, right? What we see is that even throughout an uptrend, there's always, corrections. There's always pullbacks. So what I would suggest, not financial advice, something I'm doing is that, even though I mentioned earlier in the live stream, I did deploy my dry powder. But moving forward, for those interested in trying to get in, you have the question, everything's pumped. What do I do? Well, there's all this uncertainty, right? It could continue pumping, or it could be the top and everything's going to correct very hard. Well, what you do to mitigate the risk of all the uncertainty is dollar cost average. That way you mitigate the risk of both sides, where, we're at a bit of a dip now. So, maybe, if I was getting, if I knew my paycheck was every 2 weeks, every Friday, 2 Fridays a month kind of thing, and I knew I wanted to deploy 20% of my portfolio into this ecosystem, what I would do is maybe for myself, deploy half of my dry powder right away if you're planning on dollar cost averaging, and then with the other half, wait to see if you can get that dip, right? Like wait to see if you can buy a 5, 10, 15, 20% dip. Also, something to consider as well, I won't do it now because it'll take a lot of time, but if we compare PulseChain to some of its competitors, I remember taking a look not too long ago at Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, Kusama, Polygon, Avalanche. And what we saw is that during the first month, during the first quarter of them having launched, they all had a major dip, and that dip was the cycle, not just a cycle, but the all-time low. So, we had Pulse Chain here. It could be the chance that this was the all-time low here. That is always possible. But it's not inevitable that, hey, maybe we correct back down to maybe this region here. That's definitely not impossible. And so if one were dollar cost average, perhaps you can deploy now in case we're just retesting support and it holds and we go further, or maybe we fall down more and then you have your other half of your dry powder to accumulate a dip. So those are my thoughts, not financial advice. Now, we're also seeing EHEX to PHEX, interestingly, hovering throughout this range here from about 0.04 to about 0.01. And so what I'm trying to with this is that this might be a very interesting pair to put liquidity on. And in fact, I am. One of the very few pairs I feel comfortable providing liquidity for is this pair right here, EHEX to PHEX. Because even though we don't know for sure if it'll be price parity, there is some very good reason to think, mostly arbitrage reasons, that we're likely to move somewhat comparably over time. And given this essentially 700% APR, this pool particularly is very, very attractive, because if one is going to provide liquidity, and whenever you expose a portion of one's portfolio to risk, you're better off doing so with a minority-sized position. And if you're going to expose, your portfolio to risk, let's say 5-10% of your portfolio by providing liquidity, you want to do so on a pair that is correlated, because the further it decorrelated it is, the more impermanent loss risk. For example, I would not touch at all these pairs with Pulse Chain to DAI, because even though that APR is insane, so is the risk, guys. Like, here's why this is so risky, because you see these percentages, but what you don't see is the impermanent loss. There's a reason why these pay what they pay, folks, because there is that impermanent loss. So if you're going to provide liquidity, you want to provide liquidity on something that's likely to move, very similarly, like PulseX, the Pulse Chain. This is one I'm not currently, but I'm kind of debating providing liquidity for. One reason why I haven't pulled the trigger is because I don't know if, like I said, I can take my own advice and just do kind of 5-10%, but, with the single side liquidity pools, a month or 2 or 3 away, I don't know if it makes sense for me to just to wait and do that, which is kind of risk-free, or at least a lot less risky. Now, this is another pool I'm providing liquidity for, kind of Pulse Chain to EHEX. So these pairs that are correlated, basically the rich dark coins. So except incentive, because I think incentive is kind of the riskiest of the rich dark coins, has the shittiest tokenomics, has the most kind of dumb pressure. So even though fucking incentive is miraculously pumping right now, I think because currently the supply is very low, but that's not going to be the case forever, because it's constantly inflating at an extremely high rate. I think those are currently the pools that kind of make the most sense for me. So let's continue reading the comments here, because I'm just yapping away. Yeah, read that one. INC's ripping. Keep saying, folks. I like it. Thank you, folks. Bought a bunch of INC days ago. Have it deployed in the farms. Okay, you bought INC. Interesting. I'm not sure if I would buy INC, but you. I'm not a financial advisor. It might actually work out well, especially with some of these pools with a higher APR. I personally wouldn't buy, like. See, that's the thing, folks. Like, when you have Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex here, the fuck, why are you buying incentive with the shittiest tokenomics? In my opinion, for me, not financial advice, you might end up doing better than me, man. So fuck what I'm saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I would prefer to just have PHEX to EHEX, provide liquidity for that, and earn fucking 700% in the incentive token, instead of, I don't know, like incentive to Pulse Chain. This one's probably gonna have a good bit of impermanent loss, because look, even though incentive's doing well right now, the thing about incentive token is that as the weeks and the months and the years go on, more and more incentive token is going to be printed, and more of it's going to be sold, because it's that's how you mitigate the risk of impermanent loss. That's how you extract value out of the ecosystem. And right now, because of the supply of incentive token being so low, because it's starting from zero and just being minted, that's why I think it's doing well now. But I think the more time goes on, the more dumpy of a token it is. But with that being said, currently the APYs, the APRs are very high, so perhaps it makes up for it. So that's why it's an open question. I'm not trying to say anything definitive here. I'm just trying to run through the risks, just because we do get those noobs, right? Like if you're providing liquidity, there's a decent chance you know what you're doing. There's a chance you might end up being profitable, but we get kind of newer people coming in here, people who aren't familiar with liquidity providing. Like people see like these APRs and like, oh my god, I got a FOMO, I got to do something, but they don't consider the risk. They don't consider the impermanent loss. Like with a lot of these pools, with the impermanent loss, like if you're going to participate in one of these pools, you got to be prepared to hold a month or 2 or 3 or even longer, because let's say you provide liquidity for EHEX to BHEX here, but then fucking EHEX just pumps, and then you decide to take out here, you're going to suffer some impermanent loss. And if you only provide liquidity for a day, that those rewards might not be enough to make up for the loss here. So if you're going to provide liquidity, depending what size amount you're providing liquidity with, but just understand that there's always that risk. So that's why I want to run through that. Pulse launched. Maybe it's time to finally spend $50 on lighting, so you don't look green as you always do on every stream, sir. Ever. Excuse me, but I prefer looking green. Okay, green is is my people's color. And no, absolutely not. Why the hell would I take out anything now at the beginning of this fucking ecosystem, guys? Like we're all happy to be pumping now. This is great, but we're not going to top off until midway through 2025. So no, I ain't taking shit out, folks. Like, look, I sold my car for all this stuff. I barely buy anything. I barely go out. Because I understand this opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So fuck no, I'm not taking shit out. I'm gonna look green for the next 2 fucking years. I do not give a shit. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm not gonna buy a fucking $50 light bulb that ends up costing me fucking $5,000, $50,000 in the year 2025. So I hope that answers your question. Making almost 1 million PLSX a day from incentive. Well, there you go, good sir. Maybe that's why. Maybe you do know what you're doing, right? So yeah, maybe this is just for the noobs, I guess, right? Like you seem to fucking know what you're doing. If that's the case, good for you, man. Okay, so long-term, simple hold PLSX, and we'll all make money, folks. Not financial advice, not guaranteed, but the market will probably reach a cycle all-time high. Summer 2025, maybe. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding. I'm a net buyer until 2025. So are you telling us you're gay? Yes, 100%. That's what you should walk away with. The money man saying I'm confused. Yeah, well maybe you're a part of the colored people as well if you're so confused. You look like the Hulk. Thank you very much. I am indeed jacked. Cleveland, farming any stables is the riskiest farm, 100%. Why won't I always get back my stable if I end? Oh, my man. Just Google impermanent loss calculator. Hold on. All right, this is something you can Google for yourself. All right, impermanent loss calculator. So let's say you're providing liquidity, right? And Pulse Chain's at $1, and your stable coins is at $1. Okay, and then Pulse Chain 100x's, and your stable coin's still at $1. You just suffered an impermanent loss of 80%. So 80% of your Pulse Chain is now gone. So this is the risk of impermanent loss. This is the risk with providing liquidity in one of these pools with a stable coin. Because yeah, look at that, APR 2000%. That's super awesome, right? But if Pulse Chain 100x's, then that's the impermanent loss you're looking at. Okay, so this is what people. Here, I'll I think it looks kind of small. Hold on, see if I can make this bigger. My screen might be lagging, or no, there we go. All right, can you see this, guys? This is what we're talking about here. Your stable coin's $1, just for fucking the sake of easy mathematics. Let's just say Pulse Chain's $1. Pulse Chain 100x is your stable still $1. This is the impermanent loss. That is why there's a higher APR. Typically speaking, a good rule of thumb is, and this is not always the case, there's nuances, blah, 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 blah. The higher the APR, typically the higher the risk whenever you're providing liquidity. Because why is there such a high APR? You know, if you're earning 2,000%, why doesn't just everyone in the mother funnel into that pool? The reason is because there's risk there, folks, right? So, you know, if you're losing, 80% of your pulse bag, if it does 100x, you got to hold for a while for that kind of LP to be worthwhile. And also something to understand is that all these percentages, all these returns are very likely to go down over time, because as more and more people provide liquidity, everyone's going to get a smaller and smaller slice of the pie. And so, these yields are very good because these are new pools. But a month from now, a year from now, like I bet you a year from now, we come back and this yield could be 10%. It could be 6%. I know during the bear market last I checked it was months. But I remember going to I used to provide liquidity on Matic Polygon on SushiSwap on Matic Polygon, and the APRs for stablecoins are like 2%, 3%. Like it was nothing. So that's what you got to understand: the impermanent loss, and these yields are likely to go down over time. Okay, where did I leave off? Good point, yes sir. Always good points. Like if I put 50 DAI, AMD, PLS, and farm, whenever I end, will always at least. I don't know what you're saying, broski. Are you Mexican? Yes, I am Mexican. If PLS goes up, we're all Mexican. If PLS goes up 10x, you get more stables instead of the upside from just buying PLS with those stables. Yes, sir. Get rich, my bro. Hopefully, we can all get rich together. The money man is saying, pals laugh. Yeah, but I always get my DAI right back. Are the stables safe? It's kind of a philosophical question. It's what is safe? Congrats. Now you have stables. Those aren't bonded like the RH tokens. Yeah, guys, just look. If you have any questions about providing liquidity, number one, you probably shouldn't be providing liquidity. But if you insist, do so on a pair that is correlated, such as not financial advice. I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm just as an example of a correlated pair. PulseX and Pulse Chain are correlated, and so this is an example of a pool likely to suffer less impermanent loss than a pool such as this, Pulse Chain to DAI, which are extremely decorrelated. I don't know how to understand it. That's a tough one, man. I don't know if I can fix that. You have way more upside with buying PLSX. A stable coin isn't going to 100x. Reward isn't worth it. 100%, folks. 100%. There's so much upside, and with just buying and holding, and there's potential downside with providing liquidity. So unless you really know what you're doing, like my man Philip M over here, then maybe you just spend some time learning until you become very confident in your own understanding, and then take action. Cleveland, Ohio. By the way, folks, we got 42 people watching. Everyone take a moment to like, subscribe, and share the live stream. Brand new channel, as I always say. So every like, every sub, every share helps out tremendously. Cleveland is saying, I get that, but it's a safe bet, though. Like, will not lose my stable dollar, and will it grow INC, though, right? The issue is opportunity cost, okay? Like, if you're providing liquidity, you're going to provide half, $100 in Pulse Chain, $100 in DAI, but that $100 in DAI might have been better off just market buying Pulse Chain. So there's opportunity cost when you LP with a stable coin, as well as impermanent loss. So due to the opportunity cost and impermanent loss, that yield might not even end up being worth it at the end of the day. So this is why for noobs, there's so much risk with providing liquidity. So like I'm only doing it with maybe 5-10% of my portfolio at most, and I'm doing it with a highly correlated pair. Like I'm providing liquidity for Pulse Chain to EHEX, PHEX to EHEX, and then maybe I think I might pull the trigger on Pulse Chain to PulseX in the near term as well. Correlated pairs to mitigate the risk of impermanent loss. And I also, don't mind holding any of these coins. I think these are all solid long-term holds. If PLS goes up, we're all Mexican. 100%. We are all Mexican all the time. Brandon, if 10,000 USDC magically appeared in your wallet on Pulse Chain, how would you deploy / split it? Not financial advice. Okay, so one thing I've been arguing for, you'll hear everyone say dollar cost average, which means just kind of like blindly buy once a week for the next year or two. And that's fine. But what I like to argue for is weighted dollar cost averaging. Like, for example, it's the weekend. Let's say you got the weekend off, you're not working. You have more time to look at the charts, right? So what I would say is, hey, take the weekend every couple hours. You don't have to stare at a fucking screen, but every couple hours, take a look at the chart, see if there's a dip, right? Like, let's take a look at the daily candle, right? So throughout just today, we had a range of 40%. We ranged 40% in one day. So if you were paying attention, maybe you bought somewhere mid through. So if you weren't paying attention, let's just say you bought somewhere mid through the candle here. But if you were paying attention, maybe you saw this dip and you maybe didn't get it right away, but maybe you accumulated it there, right? So you bought yourself a pretty decent dip. So this is what I'm trying to say with weighted dollar cost averaging. A lot of people just say, buy blindly once a week for the next year and you'll do great. And that's true, you will. But I argue for, do that same dollar cost averaging. But if you have that extra time, track the market. Even in an uptrend, there's always a 5% dip, a 10% dip. So number one, buy red candles. And I'm glad you asked this question because this is going to transition to my second part of what I had planned for this live stream, because I'm taking a sip of water because there's some good stuff here, folks, I'm about to delve into. Even though, I went all into the richer ecosystem, PulseX, Hex, and Pulse Chain are my largest bags by far. With that being said, I did sacrifice to different protocols. So for me, I think Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex are the safest in terms of, having that high upside potential, but also having longevity. So I would want that to be the bulk of my portfolio. But, I find some other things interesting as well. So whenever I find something interesting, I might choose to allocate a 5 or maybe a 10% allocation of my portfolio to something I might find interesting. So what I'm getting at here is, there is many sacrifice phrases for different projects launching on Pulse Chain. One was fiat. There was another one, famous. So fiat, just to do a brief summary on this, my screen's frozen. So fiat is a fork of Aave. I don't know why my shit is so slow right now. Please forgive me. So it's a fork of Aave. Okay. And if we look at the market cap of Aave, it's basically $1 billion. All right. But if we look at what fiat raised, which, fiat is the Aave of the Pulse Chain ecosystem, they only raised $5 million fucking dollars. And the supply is very low. I think they only have a 5.5 million supply. So if you compare the market cap of fiat to Aave, there's massive potentials here. I mean, let's ask Google, what's 1 billion divided by 5 million?
The answer is 200.
200. So if for fiat to reach the same value, the same market cap as Aave, that's a 200x. A 200x. That's pretty goddamn good returns. So let's take a look at Famous. Famous is a fork of GMX. GMX launched during the bear market and did pretty good. It did, I think it was like a 3x. Its value is 500 million. So let's take a look here at Famous. And so, Dixon, I'm going to run through my thought process here, my thesis, and then I'll summarize everything. I'll wrap it up nicely in a bow for you. So hope you guys pay attention here. So what I'm trying to get at, why is my shit so glitchy? Okay, so GMX, where did I have GMX? Did it disappear? Okay, it did disappear for some fucking reason. Anyways, so GMX market cap of 500 million, right? So let's ask Google. 500 million divided by 10 million.
The answer is 50.
So for Famous to reach the market cap of GMX, that's a 50x. And something we got to understand here is These are the valuations in a bear market. Aave might do a 5, 10x in the bull market. GMX might do a 5, 10, 20x in the bull market. So simply to reach the valuations of their competitors in a bear market, we're already talking about 50x, 100x, 200x gains. And so, while yes, I love Pulse Chain, I love PulseX, I love Hex, that's the majority of my portfolio. I also have that quote unquote Degen itch, right? And if I want to scratch that Degen itch, I also know that with some of these kind of newer plays, there's also more uncertainty and more risk. So for that reason, if I do choose to diversify, when I do choose to diversify, I'll only do so with, again, maybe 5, 10%. So I would, for example, for me, one thing I plan to do is I love accumulating PulseX, because I know that when those staking pools open and I can earn 20%, 10%, 50%, and whatever I like, I can use that APR to accumulate something else. Like maybe I can accumulate Pulse Chain, but maybe I can accumulate Fiat as well. Maybe I can accumulate Liquid Loans. Maybe I can accumulate Famous, the GMX fork, right? And so here we're taking a look at Liquid Loans. Liquid Loans raised 51 million. Liquid Loans is a fork of Liquidity. Liquidity currently has a valuation just over 100 million. So that's what, a 4x to get to the valuation of Liquidity, and that's in the bear market. I'm very sure Liquidity could do easily a 10x in the bull. So then why couldn't Liquid Loans as well? So that's what that's like 40x potential with Liquid Loans potentially, right? There's a lot of nuance here in the way I'm extrapolating price predictions based off solely market cap is not a complete way of thinking about this. We need to think about buying behavior, staking behavior, tokenomics. So this is not a whole well-rounded approach to evaluating these different things. This is just a very simple approach that's not nuanced and not complete, but just to get a bit of a sense of some of the things we're considering here. All right. Internet money, guys, I like Internet money. And once they release their full fucking version, they only raised 1.6 million. This is a fucking low cap gem if I've ever seen one. Guys, I'm telling you, you got to subscribe, you got to share the stream right now, because the shit I'm telling you, other people aren't fucking talking about, because no one likes to talk about price. All right, people like to shy away, but I like talking about this shit. All right, they only raised 1.6 million. Now, granted, they raised much more. I think they raised a couple million for time on Ethereum, time on BNB, and for the future token. But for time on Pulse Chain, they only raised 1.6 mil. This is a market cap of 1.6 mil is fucking nothing. It's nothing. For this to 100x, it just needs a market cap of 160 million. 160 million in Pulse Chain is fucking nothing. It's nothing. I could easily see this reaching a market cap of a billion, and you could fucking do that math for yourself, right? Or the wallet could get hacked and the fucking coin goes to zero, right? That's why there's risk with these things. That's why you don't go all in on these newer, more speculative plays, because even though we can clearly see the thesis, like, hey, if we compare it to some of its competitors, what's the X growth, right? If we see how much they raised, there's issues with market cap, but what we can understand, the thing we can take away from the sacrifice raises from their quote unquote market cap, is we can get a sense of the amount of economic energy that was initially infused to it. But with a $1.6 million market cap on Pulse Chain, like, this is fucking nothing. This is so little. So it's an open question as to whether or not this wall will actually gain traction, actually gain adoption. But I like KG. I personally sacrifice. I hold this stuff. And I know that given how little was raised, if this thing can get any kind of traction, any kind of notoriety, I mean, even if it just gets $100 million market cap, which is fucking nothing in crypto, even if it gets $1 billion market cap, which is nothing in crypto, the potential growth is insane. Not to mention the thing, I'm so glad I brought this up. Folks, everyone like and subscribe, because what I'm about to say is tremendous. And let me take a sip of water before I say it. The thing that kind of took me over the edge in choosing to diversify a bit into these specific protocols that I'm mentioning is the fact that you can stake these things and earn a yield in pulse chain. That was a giant risk mitigating factor that led me to say, okay, I see the option of having dry powder for Pulse Chain or PulseX. I also see that these things are raising less. They're interesting. They could grow a lot. But the fact that the internet money holding the time token, you can earn a yield in Pulse Chain. With fiat, you can stake the fiat token and earn Pulse Chain, earn PulseX. Same thing with fiat. Same thing, liquid loans. You can also earn a yield as well. Power City, love Power City. They're coming out with a multi-chain DEX aggregator that also acts as a bridge where you can bridge over funds from, I believe it's like 16 different chains, and they redistribute all those fees back to the core. They'll have an NFT marketplace. They'll have a version of Liquid Loans, but instead of Liquid Loans being for Pulse Chain, Power City's version is for PulseX. So they have four. They have the amplifier where you can automate some DeFi things. So they have four massive, huge fucking use cases that all redistribute fees back to the Watt stakers, and you can earn a fee in Pulse Chain. So that's a common throughput with the things I like, the things I sacked for, was the fact that, not only could the token itself appreciate in price, but you could stake the token and earn a yield in Pulse Chain, in PulseX, which is more of a for sure thing, which greatly mitigated the risk, which made it easier for me to say that, hey, I feel more comfortable deploying, 5% into Power City, 5% into time, 5% into fame, because I know that, there's the opportunity for this token to appreciate. There's also the chance for this to fucking go to zero, but I can also stake it and earn a yield in Pulse Chain, which is a more for sure thing, which helps to mitigate the risk. So I'm not saying that those were the exact percentage breakdowns that I went with, but that is how I'm thinking about all this. So Dixon, super great question. I'm glad you brought that up. Just to summarize here, I do think that kind of Pulse Chain, PulseX Hex are the safest things, although people can argue what the fuck actually safe means. But I do think for myself, I'm comfortable with Pulse Chain, PulseX Hex being a majority of my portfolio. And then, I'm not saying you go into any of these. I'm just saying these are things I like, things that I sacrifice for. For fiat, famous, liquid loans, internet money, Pulse Chain. Whenever I feel like diversifying to something, I might do 5-10%, but still having the majority in the more for sure thing, Pulse Chain, PulseX. So I hope that answers your question. I know that was a bit long-winded, but I would definitely agree with Bufo. I think that was a good question. My goodness, that was long-winded. Digital banking shits about 2 changes. Any good for crypto? Bro, I don't know what you're saying, my guy. Okay, I'm getting out of it. LOL. I put 100 in and making $7 a day in incentive. Right on. Nice. Awesome. Can 6 mil PLS and around 10 mil PulseX give some good money in the future? I definitely think so. But what good money is relative to anyone. But yeah, I think this, having your money in this, there's fewer good places to have it, in my opinion. Can't wait for our liquid loans to come out. Wonder how our sack in that will do. Yeah, guys, liquid loans is another very interesting one. Because look, the thing about liquid loans is that they raise the most out of any project launching on Pulse Chain. And even though some people might say that, hey, because they have a higher valuation, higher market cap, more initial economic energy inside of it, that it caps, the potential growth. But the counter argument to that is that, okay, sure, but they also have more money to bootstrap the ecosystem. They also have more money to spend on advertising if that's what they choose to do. Like they have more money to spend on developers. Like they have, when you have money to spend to help support your ecosystem, that's also a good thing to consider as well. So there's pros and cons, right? But I definitely like liquid loans. I think it's a solid DeFi project. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Okay, thanks. I know it's hopeless to say, but it's some good money needed to buy those PLS X and PLS. Okay, Can I ask the worst case scenario? What if there's a rug pull? Then what, are you broke? Yeah, 100%. Guys, like if this rug pulls, if this crashes, I'm broke. I will be a homeless person. Like I'm not kidding. I put my entire life savings into Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex. If this goes to 0, I'll be a homeless person. I'm fucked if this doesn't work out. What kind of? I'm serious. Like I'll have to fucking join the army again. If this doesn't work out. Like literally, I think I might go back if this doesn't work out because the other option is homelessness. Yes, if Rug pulled out, yeah, your position is worth 100%. What else are you guys saying? Zeus, it's funny for you because you have no position. What are you saying, Zeus? All right, let's see if there's any questions here in the comments. Keen Olsen, what up, Keen Olsen? A tip from some friends that have hopes in this project. Is that a question? Is that a comment? Hey, Brandon, 1 mil pulse or 4 mil pulse X? That is an interesting question. An extremely interesting question. Let's ask the market. So currently, oh my God, no, that can't be fucking real. Is that real? Hold on. Hold on here, folks. If that ratio is real, 1 to 2, I might swap some pulse X or pulse chain. Is that a real? Can you guys confirm this for me right now? If this ratio is real, hold on. This is a real fucking. Yeah, I might end the fucking stream and sell some pulse X for pulse chain at this ratio. Wow. Let me take a look at the liquidity because that is a very interesting ratio. Someone must have just bought a shit ton of Pulse X or sold a shit ton of Pulse Chain. Because for that 1 to 2 ratio to be there, some big moves must have been, unless someone did something with liquidity pools. Let's take a look here. Because I just want to confirm on Deck Schooner. Liquidity. I'm not seeing anything crazy on Deck Schooner. Yup, it's real. Poof. Yeah, PLSX is pumping. Let's see here. PLSX. Yeah, I guess. Look, fuck, guys, I'm kind of considering whether I should fucking end the stream and sell because that's a good ratio. A little bit. I'm thinking maybe a little bit. I don't need to though. I really don't need to. Hell, I could do it with 5%, but this is interesting because this speaks to the fact that once you've accumulated a good amount, you really don't need to do shit. But this is a good fucking ratio. But I'm just trying to confirm, like on Deck Schooner, like I want to see the liquidity. I want to see what move was made to reflect that ratio because I'm not seeing anything on Deck Schooner to confirm that ratio. Chat saying, "Yep, it's real. Yeah, 1 to 2." Because looking at PulseX to die and WPLS to die, the UST price doesn't reflect that ratio because we were at 1 to 3, but a 1 to 2 is pretty significant. That's actually very interesting. Okay, I'll take a look. I'm gonna keep looking at that while I stream here. If we get to, should I swap some PulseX for Pulse Chain? I don't know. If I do it, I'm only gonna do a very small amount, 5%, something like that. Because again, yeah, I might do something like that. So to answer your question, look, I think Pulse Chain long term might outperform, but the PulseX, as soon as I'm taking pools, I could have higher APR. So it's a real open question. That ratio. I don't know if I should pull the trigger on that. I swapped 60% of my bag yesterday. That's what you're saying. Brandon, in that deck screener, PLSX to PLS, click switch price in USD. You will see the percentage difference between the two. Let's see. Switch to price in USD. There's so many goddamn buttons. Price in USD. Price. It's not a clickable thing. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time just trying to fucking find a button in this fucking whole thing. Top mid. You're saying top mid. I see price in USD, but I don't. It's not clickable. I don't think. Top mid. Okay, you tell me where. Am I hot? Am I cold? You tell me where to go here. Right of the templates button. Oh my god, this is a terrible game because I'm not. You're gonna see how little I'm familiar with this layout. Where am I looking, my guy? Anyways, man, it's all good. It's all good. This ratio is very, very interesting, though. Very. I don't know. Yeah, so guys, I'm kind of contemplating debating selling a small portion of my PLSX for pulse chain just because this is the ratio I think we've ever seen. But if I don't necessarily have to, and I'll be fine if I don't, because I'm okay with having like a decent amount of PulseX. Like I want to have PulseX for those single side staking pools. So, because like with this ratio trade, right? Who knows if it'll end up being profitable in the end, right? Because what I do know is that those staking pools are going to be very, very juicy, and I want to have as much PulseX as possible to take advantage of those staking pools. So, in a case like this, where it's an open question to what extent, it might be a good move to do some ratio trading, perhaps. In these cases, with all this uncertainty, doing nothing is not the worst decision, especially when the ROI on the risk reward ratio isn't clear. What is interesting, the reason why I'm just kind of thinking about this is just because that is the best ratio we've ever seen so far in terms of selling PulseX for Pulse Chain. But again, with the single side staking pools and with the correlation with the liquidity bonding, is it really worth it in the end? Who knows? Like it could be that PulseX ends up performing just as well, comparably as Pulse Chain. I mean, the supply is relatively the same. The buy and burn is fucking amazing and will only go up. So given this open question, sometimes, with all this uncertainty, the best thing you can do is nothing. But that is very interesting. Very, very interesting to see that. I appreciate you, LS, trying to teach me where that fucking button is. I just don't want to. I'm sure I'll find it later. I just want to take time on the stream while everyone's watching just to find the fucking button, right? But I appreciate you trying to help me out there. Caltrix is saying, Brandon, how much time are you allowing for PulseX to pump? Years. I'm not selling until fucking 2025, my guy. So what have you guys most hopes in PLS or PLSX? Like I just said, man, that's basically what I'm debating right now. And both, right? Like I'm happy with my bags. I have more PulseX by a lot, but I'm going to use the staking boards to buy more Pulse Chain. So I think I'll be fine in the end. I think you can't go wrong with both, pretty much, in my opinion. 36 months, 1 year. Yeah. So guys, look, whenever people ask me this kind of question of when am I going to hold, when do you take profits, the general thing I say is like mid 2025. But for those interested, and I'd only suggest this if you're very well off, if you're still accumulating, if you're not like well off, if you don't have a lot of disposable income, focus on accumulating. But if you're well off, and you have like free disposable income, I would suggest joining my Patreon. If you join the Patreon, you'll access my Discord group. And my Discord group, one of the main value propositions of my Discord group is I have a well thought out, typed out entire strategy on how to best optimize for taking profits. I plan on expanding on that. I plan on doing videos and live streams on that. So I would only recommend that for people who, are well off and have a lot of disposable income, and already have good sized bags. Definitely kind of prioritize accumulating your own bag before you spend money on my group. But just as a general thing, I do think kind of summer 2025 we're probably gonna start to look toppy. But in my group, I will, be trying to talk to my people about my plans for trying to best optimize the top, and I have a whole fucking written out thing and tons of indicators, and I'll be expanding on that further. So, I hope that helps. Definitely prioritize your own accumulation, your own bag. But if that kind of thing sounds interesting to you, there's a link for my Patreon down in the description below. ABRK is saying PLSX supply burns at a much faster rate. So, okay, yeah. So why don't we take a moment here to kind of take a look at something else I wanted to show you. So one very interesting research here. Pulseburn.com, plsburn.com. So we can see here that we've had 41 billion PulseX burned in what, like a week? Not even. So that was bought and burned. So the super, super cool thing, guys, about all this stuff is that it's not just being burned, because all these other protocols have these burn features. Like, for example, crypto.com did a massive, massive fucking burn way back in the day, like a 50% burn. But the price didn't react positively right away because they burned supply that wasn't fucking touching the market anyways. Like all these different cryptocurrencies, they'll be like, oh, we're gonna do a 60% supply burn, but it was supply that isn't touching the price. This supply that's burned right here, this 41 billion. Here, I'll zoom in a bit so you guys can see this better. This was supply that was first interacted on the market. It's bought and burnt. First, the protocol buys PulseX on the open market and then burns it. So it's supply that's interacting with the market, interacting with the liquidity pools. So it's this. What I'm trying to say here is that the supply being burnt here is far different than the simple supply burn from other protocols. Because when they do a supply burn, but it was fucking like supply held by the devs that was never touching the market anyways, doesn't really matter. But this is first being bought on the open market and then burnt. This kind of supply burn is far, far more impactful than other kinds of supply burns because it's supply that's actually going through the system, but it's being bought in the fucking first place. So it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And it's super early on as well. Oh my God, all these comments. Pulse will outperform in the bull. I think it will do very well. Yep. Also, that's another thing too. PulseX and Pulse Chain will probably move comparably. They're correlated together, right? So holding both is probably not bad. I missed the Uniswap pool ratio trading. Hope you did well. Good for you. Is Messin still a Chrome Max? Or has he finally seen the Pulse Chain light? Yeah, so guys, look, Messin, my friend from A Million to the Moon, he's my friend, and we also do A Million to the Moon together. As much as I like to shit on him for like being like a Chromaxy and talking shit, which he does, no, he likes his ecosystem. Like he I don't want to dox him, but he said this publicly. He owns Hex. He sacrificed for Pulse Chain and PulseX, so he owns his stuff. He likes it. He's just a bit more skeptical, I think, than me. I think that's fair to say. I don't think I'm misrepresenting him when I say that. Oh, what is Ellis saying? Sorry, Brandon. I meant click the switch to price in WPLS. It's clickable. Yeah, it's all right, man. It's we moved on. All good. All good. I appreciate it though. I appreciate you trying to educate me. D-Wave is saying VVS Finance. Yeah, VVS Finance. Look, Messin look, yeah, Messin like VVS Finance, which was a major DEX on the Crow network, the Crypto.com ecosystem. I don't blame him because the thing about his whole rationale with liking the crypto.com ecosystem was the fact that like crypto.com has a very, very, very user friendly wallet, an app, and a wallet that's on your phone. And if you're talking about onboarding the next billion people, something like that is necessary. So him, who has an engineering background, he sees and he appreciates the user interface, the user experience. He understands that having this very nice looking app on your phone is what's necessary to onboard people. And so it's not an unreasonable extrapolation to say that, hey, therefore the major tokens on that Chronos ecosystem is likely to do well, right? So while I disagree with him in that I vastly, vastly prefer the Richard Art side of things, I also see the value in what Messon's saying. So Messon's essentially saying that, hey guys, like this app has a great user interface. They have tons and tons of features. They have a wallet. This is what it takes to onboard, the next billion people. And if they onboard those people, their ecosystem's probably going to do well. It's not an unreasonable position. It's not. I definitely see the merit in what he's saying and why he liked Chronos, why he liked VVS. But I just, I prefer Richard Art, right? Like I like the founder a lot more. I like that he places such a great importance on tokenomics, building community. He also understands that price is the most important thing. Like for example, if you look at Charles Hoskinson, who's the founder of Cardano, right? Whenever anyone like talks about price, he's like, "Oh, price. Oh, I don't care about price. It's the technology that matters." Well, fucking price matters to the people investing, right? And Richard Art knows that. Richard Art acknowledges that. And we're in a space where, all too often these founders, they look down on people who like consider the price, but no, price, considering the price matters a great deal. Wow, that ratio is still at 1-2, eh? That's crazy. That is a crazy ratio. Yeah, it's still at 1-2.1. That's crazy. Okie dokie, folks. Let's see what else I had here. So yeah, look, guys, Pulse.burn is a great resource. Hexdirect.com has a bunch of great resources here as well. I already talked about these different protocols launching. I talked about diversification. So what else did I have on my mind? Okay, so guys, to kind of wrap up here the stream, got to summarize some of the main takeaways. Unless you guys got any more questions. Number one, I invite you, everyone, subscribe. Please subscribe because this is a brand new channel. I greatly appreciate everyone's support here. So let's kind of review some of the things we went over. We're starting to see Richard Hart become much, much more active on Twitter, on social media. And I don't think that's meaningless. It's not me saying this as well. I'm actually parroting this. I got this idea from Buck Fia, if I'm being honest, who I was in a Twitter space a couple days ago, and he was basically saying, I don't want to put this on him. I don't want to put this idea on him, but this is the idea out there that Richard getting more active is kind of meaningful and kind of hinting, hey guys, like, we're getting active, and it reflects in the numbers, right? Like the interest, the Google searches is definitely peaking right now. And guys, it's just the beginning, right? Like for example, I went very heavy into PulseX, got into Pulse Chain as well. I think for myself, Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex being the largest portion of my portfolio makes sense. In terms of what I'm doing moving forward, I like the idea of a deal. PulseX, in my opinion, is at a better valuation. Something to consider. If you're providing liquidity, only do so with correlated pairs. I'm using that yield from providing liquidity on correlated pairs and the eventual single-side staking pools to accumulate the things I like Pulse Chain, perhaps Fiat. I like the famous the GMX fork. I like loans. I think is interesting. Internet Money. They fucking raise nothing. Power City. I think is great as well. So none of this financial advice, but that kind of is what I'm up to. If you guys got any more questions, let me know. If you got any more questions here as well. Caltrix is saying, I'm convicted. Pulse Chain will do well. I am also convicted in the same. They both will do well. When documentary, D-Wave? Well, good sir. I don't know, but I don't think we need that documentary. I think a lot of Hex people were kind of excited because, it's a cool thing, but I really don't think that fucking documentary is going to do much of anything except give like our community a hard on, if I'm being quite honest. But look, folks, it is early days. It's the first week of this ecosystem. We might have dips, so consider, dollar cost averaging. Also, I want to encourage you, if you're interested in price predictions, the last 2 videos I put out on this channel were exactly talking about price predictions. So instead of going on a 15-minute spiel, triptych YT, I highly encourage you check out the last 2 videos I just put out on this channel. The last 2 videos were exactly talking about my price predictions, my plan for optimizing, trying to take profits in this ecosystem. And what I would say is that for those of you who are well off, who have big bags, check out my Patreon group. If you join my Patreon, you get access to my Discord group. In there, I'll share my portfolio. I'm sure what I'm up to, my buys and sells, but most importantly, a very comprehensive take profit strategy for the next cycle. Now, if you're still kind of newer, if your bags are smaller, I would encourage you to focus on accumulating. That group is only for people who are very well off. I only want people in there who are rich and who could very easily afford that. If you're kind of still accumulating, focus on accumulation. But for those who kind of want more information, there is that option as well. But again, if you want kind of my thoughts on price predictions, again, man, I made 2 videos. Literally, the last 2 videos are all about this. I do a better job in those videos than I will do here. So I invite you to check that out. Everyone, like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all of you guys being here. I just want to wrap up by saying this. I started doing crypto YouTube back in 2020. And I so easily could have sold out and been one of these guys who just chilled Bybit links. And I did in the beginning when I didn't know any better. But when I found a better option, when I found this ecosystem, I ditched the old shitty way of doing things for a new, better way of doing things, because I genuinely thought that this was a superior opportunity. And so I hope you guys appreciate that. I hope you guys understand that for me, I'm really trying to go from broke to rich. I'm really trying to learn exactly what it takes to become financially free in cryptocurrency. Because if this shit doesn't work out for me, I'm not kidding, I will be a fucking homeless person. I put my entire life savings into this ecosystem because it filled the set of criteria I'd come to learn is necessary for finding one of these opportunities with high upside and longevity potential. So in the coming weeks, months, and years, we're going to find out together if I was a fucking crazy man, or if maybe some of the things I learned ended up actually being useful. So let's learn together. Everyone like and subscribe. It's great to see everyone. Until next time, take care.